Welcome to this evening show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. This is the Togetherness Media. I'm a psychotherapist and I am the author of Life Reset, the Awareness Path to Creating the Life You Want, and the originator of the Awareness Integration Therapy. Today, I would actually like to talk to you about how to handle a depressed mood, because obviously, due to COVID, the ratio of depression and depressed mood have really risen, and in all ages and in all everybody that you could see their bouts of depressed mood, and then there's a depression. So let's first define when is it that we might have just a depressed mood. We're maybe agitated, we feel sad, we have a little bit of an anxiety that reverts back into the depression at that moment. And so the definitions of it has to do more with a state of being, which is kind of low. Our bodies are tired, we don't want to move, we don't really want to be around people, we don't want to really talk. Some people have difficulty sleeping or difficulty eating. Another person might actually take refuge in sleeping long hours and eating a lot to kind of like feed, the kind of emptiness that may be inside. So that's a mood that might shift from one state to another. When we're talking also about depression, where this becomes a chronic aspect and our belief system kind of takes on a way of hopelessness and a helplessness, and we don't see a light in the future, and we see the whole future is doomed, and not having the ability to change anything kind of brings us into a full-on depression state. I would like to ask of you to look at, if you or a friend or someone that you know, a family member, might be going through this. We usually look at it from a three-pronged perspective. One could be that these are existential anxiety and depression due to phase of life issues. When we're going from one stage of life to another, maybe we're going from school to work, we're going to high school to college, we're going from, finishing college and we need to go into the workforce. We're going from like a middle age or retirement. We're immigrating, going from one state to another. We have to let go. We have to go through the loss and the grief. So sometimes you'll see those depressed mood very appropriate to this stage that is. And that's why we also see it in the COVID time, because there was a huge transition for many of us that we weren't really expecting and not knowing what to do. Many of us, the aspect of fun and pleasure was taken away from us, or the fun and pleasure that we knew how, going out, being social, going to restaurants, going on trips, all of that was kind of taken away. So you could see that we could bring us into a phase into our life, which takes us into a bad mood. People who lost their jobs and so forth. Some depressions are chemical, where there's either a genetic matter or a hormonal matter, or there's been shift of the chemistry of the body. It could also be induced by drugs or alcohol. Sometimes, there's a coming down from the sugar of the alcohol or the high of some drug, and it takes us into a depressed mood. And if someone uses them continuously, obviously it does change the chemicals of your body and brain, because you are using chemicals consistently in your body. So then it might bring you into a depressed state. Or the depression might be due to hormonal, thyroid, or other types of hormones, or just clinical depression that might be a chemical change, or bipolar. So if the depression is from a chemical aspect, then obviously the treatment of that would need a chemical and medication management plus psychotherapy. Then we also have depressions that have happened from a childhood way of being growing, the way we were parented, the way maybe our parents neglected us, or we had a trauma, whether the trauma had to do with our parents or the trauma had to do with circumstances. Maybe we were in a place that, we faced war or poverty or gun violence or something that the trauma that we went through, we were never able to heal it and come out. We have veterans who go through this and come back with a lot of trauma and come back to a world that they're just not ready yet for, and coming back to the workforce they're not ready for because they haven't really healed the trauma. They haven't repurposed themselves in a way. So if the depression has happened because of childhood traumas or way of bringing up someone, neglect, then we also need to heal the past. So you can imagine they're first looking and assessing of, where is this depressed mood coming from? Has it always been there? Is it like a chronic way that it's always been there? Do I also see it in my family, my close family, my mother, my fathers, my siblings, my uncles and aunts and grandparents? Is it something genetic that is just kind of like given to me and I've kind of carried it with myself? Is it coming from childhood or trauma, or is it because of a phase of life issue, or is it because of an event that has happened, such as maybe a great loss, great loss of a job, a great loss of a friend or a family, a lover, ending a relationship and a divorce, and all of these are event-oriented, where I would be able to gain some skill and heal myself and move forward. The key factors to the depressive state are lack of appetite, or lack of sleep, or overeating and oversleeping, sadness, crying bouts, agitation, angry bouts, and then a sense of loneliness, a helplessness and hopelessness that shows up. And if it's to the degree that I can't shake it off, then it might also go deeper into, the ideas or the dreams, or even actions of going towards suicide or even psychosis. So it's very important for you to take this seriously and be sure that you take care of yourself, because it is a condition that can be helped. It is truly something that you don't have to be hopeless about. So what to do after you kind of like assessed what it is? So if it is chemical, I really request for you to get psychotherapy plus, visit a psychiatrist or your doctor to be able to go through that. If you think that it might be chemical due to chemicals and drugs and alcohol, then we might want to look at either reducing that to see what is going on, or if you need help with drug counselors or psychotherapists who are experts in drug counseling. And if it's the matter of trauma healing from the past, then definitely a psychotherapist who is expert in trauma and trauma healing and knows hypnosis, EMDR, and different kinds of methodologies and interventions that could support you in healing the trauma. And if it's a life event, then it's a matter of going through the loss, accepting the loss, healing the loss, and going through the sadness, doing the crying, writing down, journaling, and seeing what it is that you made, all the meanings that you made about yourself and the other person, and losing them, and what would life mean. And then coming back to a sense of purpose and gratitude about who you are, what you have, your skills, and moving forward with that. Usually depression many times comes from looking at the negativity, kind of like an all negativity of the past, and then coming to terms with all negativity of the future, as if I'm going to look at the past and kind of like take what the past is and kind of like shift it and send it to the future with the same type of negativity. And that's where the hopelessness shows up, not only in the past, but it is all the way to the future. So it's a dark tunnel that I can't see the light on the other side. So it is important for you to start looking at what are some of these belief systems and negativities that are not real. They're just part of the way of thinking that when you bring it into rationalization and you look at actual results in the world, you really get to see it is not real. You might ask help from your friends, and you might ask help from psychotherapists and counselors for them to be able to support you to shake off these types of irrational beliefs that you've held on about yourself. It is important to know how you think about yourself. And if all that you do is a negative thought about yourself, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve to think of yourself as a negative, and start looking at the beauty that you have. And if you don't know what beautiful sense of a human being you are, ask your friends, ask your family, ask people who are around you, ask your coworkers, people who know you, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you all your greatness that they see and they live with and they experience, and for you to be able to heal yourself and move on. So this is not a state that you should live in. This is a state that you need to get help with. Again, it's a common concept. Almost everybody in their life, there's a time that they get depressed because of one of these reasons. So don't feel ashamed. Doesn't have a stigma. There's nothing wrong with being depressed. So don't think like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me and it shouldn't be. It's not that it shouldn't be. It's like you're suffering and you don't deserve to suffer, and you deserve to be healed. And depression is one of those matters that you certainly can be healed. And if you don't know the distinction between what's going on, get help. Have somebody distinguish whether it's a medical or a chemical, or it's a trauma-oriented, is it event-oriented, is it an existential conversations that you have to have with yourself and repurpose your life and finding your strength and finding your resiliency and knowing, creating a vision for yourself in the future of who you need to be and all the skills that you need to gain in order to be that person, and the goodness that you have and the shine that can come through you. And I know if you're depressed and you're watching me and looking and hearing me, you're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I just don't have anything. And I beg to differ. Again, if I go around 10 people who are around you and ask them what they think about you, I'm positive that they will tell me your greatness and everything that is in there that right now you're not looking or watching. And it's important for you to see it and hear it and understand it and explore it and own it more than anything. Own it and let it be yours, and let yourself have the ability to shine. So I promise you, it is a condition that can be healed, and for your shine to pass through again. Thank you for listening to This Evening Show at the Togetherness Media. Until next week, bye-bye.